I've never been a roller coaster fan, so I'm trying to avoid the stomach-wrenching MLB and MLB-PA negotiations that seem to move from a deal being inevitable to us never having Major League Baseball again hourly. Recent rhetoric indicates a deal hinged on a last-minute owner's proposal of an international draft. Many agree that changes to the shadowy international signing market are needed. The amateur draft covers players from the U.S., Canada, and Puerto Rico. Players from Japan are controlled by their pro league and only become available via a posting system. Young Latino players are only eligible to sign once they turn 16 and within severely limited pool spending sums. Players as young as 12, though, from the DR and Venezuela frequently have handshake deals with MLB teams. Thus, there is often little surprise of signings when the period opens. Cubans' paths to MLB have increasingly followed the model of other Caribbean or South American countries. However, there are often complex hurdles to overcome first. The United States and Cuba have been at odds since the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. Cuba aligned with the Soviets in their Cold War with the Americans, and the Soviets placed nuclear missiles in Cuba, representing a legit threat of nuclear annihilation just off the shores of Florida. Diplomacy prevented disaster, but for 60 years, an American embargo against Cuba has limited trade and imports to the island, at least via the Americans and select allies. At one point, Havana had a AAA team and graduated many players to MLB. This ceased with Fidel Castro's rise to power and the advent of the embargo. For many decades, only Cubans effectively grandfathered in played in the majors. The 1990s saw a wave of high-profile defections, mostly pitchers. Many snuck away secretly during international tournaments, others via rickety rafts or boats under the cloak of darkness crossing to Florida. The 2010s became the highest profile defection period, with harrowing tales of human traffickers exploiting players for large sums of future million-dollar signing bonuses. This created a dangerous black market. It was a veritable free-for-all on a new supply of Cuban baseball players. For instance, Yasiel Puig received $42 million and Jose Abreu signed for $68 million. Those deals delivered value to LA and Chicago, respectively. However, other teams would like a mulligan in giving large contracts to players such as Yasmani Tomas at $68.5 million and Rusney Castillo at $72.5 million. Both of those players became AAA superstars but had limited impact in the majors. – 2017 saw the advent of the current international signing period and rules. The period would open July 2nd each year, but that has since shifted to January 15th thanks to COVID-19. Teams are capped in spending. At the top of the market, this usually hits about $7 million. Teams can trade for more pool money. This maxes out around $10 million. Teams also lose money based on free agent signings and extending qualifying offers. Without getting too complex, it has pushed the highest bonuses into the $5 million range. Of note, the Jose Abreu's or Yuli Gurriels of the world wouldn't have been affected, as players over 25 are considered professional and thus potential free agents. However, very few, if any, mature MLB prospects remain in Cuba. MLB and the Cuban Baseball Federation were also working on a framework to create a legal path for Cuban ball players to the States. The stated goal was to eliminate human traffickers, but forgive me if I'm slightly cynical and think the motivation was more aimed at improved scouting and greater cost certainty. Regardless, in 2018, a tentative deal was reached. All players 25 or older with at least 6 years of service to the Cuban Baseball Federation would be eligible. The Federation could also choose to release players older than 17 and younger than 25 to sign under the described international signing period. Qualifying players would be posted, similar to the Japanese system. The winning bid would see a fee go to the player's Cuban club. 20% of the first $25 million, 17.5% of any total between $25 and $50, and 15% of any amount over $50. The players would also be free to return to and play for Cuba internationally. The deal was struck down via lawmakers as the embargo was upheld, and in many ways fortified by Donald Trump's administration. It should be noted that outside a thawing of cold relations under President Barack Obama, no administration, Republican or Democrat, has pushed to eliminate the embargo. The likelihood of revisiting this deal is also not great. Cuban baseball president and key negotiator Genio Velez passed away in 2021, and the reality is MLB doesn't need a deal anymore. Cuba released a list of 34 players that would have been eligible. Most of those players are currently in an MLB organization already or are working towards signing. Those that haven't are playing professionally in Japan or have faded from the prospect radar. Details of the proposed international draft structure have leaked. I have to assume that only the Cubans that would be eligible to sign as part of the international period are available in the draft. The draft would be 20 rounds with 600 selections. Each draft slot would have an assigned bonus value. The first overall pick is worth $5.25 million. On the surface, this appears to increase overall spending by upwards of $23 million. These 600 picks, though, don't preclude the potential signing of unlimited undrafted players. Teams can currently sign infinite players as long as each bonus doesn't exceed $10,000. The age limit would stay the same, officially at 16, with the hope this eliminates the previous handshake agreements. In the grand scheme, this doesn't change much from a Cuban perspective. We are no closer to Cubans signing with permission from the Cuban government. The baseball infrastructure and talent level continues to erode on the island. More and younger Cubans are signing pro contracts. However, they still have to leave their country behind. I long for this to change, but despite proposed changes to the MLB system, Cuban baseball still exists on an island, literally and figuratively.